So, Father John, can you believe that the MPB group started out coming up on 10 years? A handful of guys get together every Wednesday. Started out with 12, 16 guys at the parish house. In 10 years, we've grown to a steady 220 guys a week. I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting what the future can hold, what the next 10 years could bring. However, one thing that I look at after the 10 years, building their faith, having that discussion, having that fellowship with men, one thing that concerns me to say, what are they getting out of it? What are their spiritual life, their journey, what are they building? So I look at that, and I'm going to use the metaphor or the analogy of a toolbox. So I look at the regular MPB guy, the regular Joe. I say, what should be in their toolbox? Some things that come to mind quick for me are Mass, weekly Mass. Confession, at least, what would you say? Quarterly? Every other month?
Every 6 to 8 weeks.
Every 6 to 8 weeks. Some other things that come to mind, daily prayer and reflection. What other things come to mind just for the regular Joe that you should have or we should have in our toolbox?
So interesting, because we've been talking a lot about this. Father Prentice, myself, Father Dave, some of the other folks on leadership teams. So I'm more and more of the mind that if we're seriously going to live an alternative Christian lifestyle in the midst of a culture like we're living in right now, I got to come up with a map for life. So the danger here is that we become too specific, too precise, like you got to do this, 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 and then we're kind of being slavish to something. But kinds of things that I would put in the toolbox. So, yep, it's got to start with prayer, because if my relationship with the Lord isn't in place, then what's the point, right? So by prayer, we got to get more specific, I think. Do I set aside dedicated time every day where I pray? Or do I just kind of fit it in? So the best habit I've ever been like drilled into me is set aside a time, put it in your calendar. Every day I get an appointment with God. That's when you pray. Don't let anything,
So
best you
morning,
can. Yeah, whatever. Morning's best. Some guys can't do it for a lot of different reasons. But if you can begin the day in prayer, 15 minutes, great. Half hour, awesome. Get to an hour, even better. So prayer. Meals.
Fasting.
No, we'll get to that. Like we eat together. If I'm a dad and a husband, we eat together.
And family.
Like, so we got to try to find a way to live family life better. So we're going to eat together. Culminating in Saturday night, we kick off the Lord's Day, which begins at sundown, with a special meal, maybe once a month. And we do what Father Prentice and I, the community we were a part of for a while, was called the Lord's Day celebration. So it's a really beautiful, simple opportunity to, there's some rituals connected with it. But it's a way to teach, especially like younger kids, something significant about the Sabbath. Like Sunday's different. Why? Because Jesus rose from the dead. What does that mean? That means I'm not going to die. Right. Oh, that's worth celebrating, right? Yeah. So you can't do it every weekend maybe, but maybe do it once a month. And maybe the other month, a set of families get together and do it. So eating together, I don't think we want to underestimate that or think it's only, it's not spiritual. Right. It's important. Community life, in the sense of like, I gotta spend more time with people. I don't want to build a ghetto, so I don't want to only hang out with people who think like me, but I will become like the people I hang out with.
So one thing that came to mind when I was thinking about this list or this toolbox is the Christian service. Is that what you're going on?
So I'd put service in the toolbox too. Like I got to have some opportunity to give. Could be PBJ, could be a tiny home project, could be whatever, right?
Whatever ministry.
So I got to serve because I find life that way.
Right.
But I got to fellowship too. Like just hang out with good families, good brothers if I'm not married.
So beyond the MPB Wednesday morning.
Yeah, because we need time to leisurely hang out. Like find a Friday night, just like husband and wife need a date night.
Yeah.
Guys need good time with guys, and Wednesday morning you're like, I got to go to work, or I got to go back to bed, or whatever it is, right? Some of the guys do that. So yeah, good fellowship, right? Asceticism of one kind or another. So fasting of whatever kind.
Okay.
So ascetics, it just comes from the Greek word, which means training. So you wrestled, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's all sorts of things you do to get in shape to wrestle. We're talking about trying to become saints.
So what do you do to?
I'm probably going to need to do some training. You know, like there's some things in my life that got to go.
Right.
So fasting's a great habit to get into. I know lots of guys just struggle with it, but so what? Start doing it, you know. Try to do it on Fridays, you know, skip a meal. Start with one meal, just like drink liquids. Give it up for something,
right.
You know. Those are the kinds of things that kind of quickly come to mind I'd put in a toolbox.
So let's use that same metaphor. And so we talked about many times, say, okay, after 10 years, regular Joe, we are regular Joes, right? But what takes them and gets them out in that current, gets them more. So I think I use the same metaphor of being a master mechanic. So if I were to kick it up a notch or add more tools that I already have in my regular Joe toolbox. We talked about fasting, daily prayer, reconciliation, mass, etc. But I look at the master mechanic set. Do we put adoration in there? What other things could I put into that?
So depending upon
so the guys are looking for more. I'm going to grow my toolbox.
Yep. So I would say every guy's got to do an inventory. So some guys, like in all honesty, they come to MPB. They don't go to mass. They're just not there yet. Like the fact that they crossed the threshold of the church, like. That's astounding. That's fantastic. Praise God that they're there. So for those guys, maybe it's like, I got to get back to Mass, which probably means I got to think about going to confession. Other guys, they go to daily Mass,
right,
or frequent Mass during the week, you know. So for them, maybe it's, I don't think I really know the Scriptures. I don't think I have a biblical worldview. I'm increasingly aware of how important it is. Without these, I don't see. Mm-hmm. Without this, I don't see reality. Like, I just don't see reality. Mm-hmm. And this reveals reality to me. So for a lot of men, and women for that matter, we're just biblically illiterate. And we feel helpless. Like, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I probably got to have a doctorate in theology to understand this. Well, you don't, you know? So maybe it's a couple of guys just starting to do a Bible study together, or maybe it's just you on your own going, maybe this summer, or this fall, I'm going to make my way through the New Testament. So I think each of us just needs to take inventory of our own lives. Like, I've never fasted before in my life, except when I had a colonoscopy. You know, then I fasted. Right? But so whatever. So where am I right now? What's the Lord asking of me to get to that next step so that I don't allow myself to settle somehow?
So I like that because I had a list of more things. So what I'm hearing, it could be a rosary, or it could be daily mass, it could be more reflection on the scripture, or another book, or spending time. So it's not prescriptive as opposed to what are you going to do next, to really challenge yourself.
Yep. We have got to be self-directed here. Yeah. And for a couple of reasons. One, like, I got to take it. I'm a man, for crying out loud. I should take initiative for this. But two, it gets cultic if I tell you what you need to do. That's why I think, you know, in leadership for you guys, you just say, these are the kinds of things to look at and consider. And
not do the inventory and say, you got to have this in your toolbox.
Right.
So each toolbox is different, which is great, which is a lot of where we're headed right now, because I think that's part of the organic growth of the group, is that's how we learn. Mm-hmm. Because you bring something different, I bring something different, mm-hmm. We share that, we grow organically, and that piece of my interest goes into my toolbox, mm-hmm. And then hopefully then changes behavior or mindsets as well. Yep. Great.
I'll add one more thing. So for a lot of guys, quick analogy. So I did Ancestry.com a couple months ago, and I thought I knew my family background pretty well. I get the results back, I'm like, I had no idea. Like, I got all these things, Caucasus, like, who knew, right? I mean, I'm Georgian, you know, like 5%. So like, not South Georgia, like Georgia, out, you know, like Turkey, that area. So, but that's how a lot of Catholics are. A lot of Catholics don't know their family history. A lot of Americans don't know history. But a lot of Catholics, like, we don't know the role that our family played in transforming the culture. And so another great thing for some guys to put in the toolkit would be, I got to get more familiar with who are the heroes of the faith? What's the contribution that the church has made? So that I know our culture, I know our history, and then in knowing what God did in the past through people like me, I get an understanding of, wow, but he might want to do something through me in the present.
For me and my family.
Exactly. So,
and kind of a play it forward.
Indeed.
Excellent. All right, thanks for your time.
My joy. Thanks, brother.